Well, hi everybody, and thank you for your feedback again. Please keep it coming because it helps kind of focus me in the direction of what people are looking for. I got something I want to try and do this week, and whether I can fit into 5 minutes or not, I don't know, but I'll give it a shot. To talk about values and principles and the difference between them. Now, I just want to talk about the similarity. The similarity between values and principles is that both of them will limit you. Both of them are very limiting. When you have values and principles, you're stuck. It's hard for you to see beyond them. It's hard for you to learn something new. It's hard for you to be open-minded. It's hard for you to, it limits your options, it limits your choices. Values and principles both do that. The difference is, the values you're stuck with. You don't choose your values. You shouldn't be. Your values should be choosing you, because values are truths. Values are things that you see to be true and you're stuck with. You know, I might have a neighbour that I don't like, and it'd be great if we could kind of bump him off and bury him in the garden. But it's the wrong thing to do. What can I do? It's inconvenient, and it limits my choices, but it's a value, and I'm stuck with it. Principles are things that we choose ourselves. Principles are personal. Principles are something like, I'll never go into overdraft in my bank. It's a limitation. That limits you certain choices, but it's a principle. You're stuck with it. That's what I got to do. I have people I know, so my supporters, who give me a lot of money to my charity, but if I ask for a loan, no, I don't do loans. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's a principle, and it will limit you in certain ways whenever you kind of have principles. Gentlemanly. I have a principle of being gentlemanly. That's great, but there might be times when it's not appropriate, and there might be times when it's when it doesn't work or it's impractical, and if you've got a principle, it's going to get you stuck. I'm not saying it's not wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong to be gentlemanly or wrong to not be, or right to be, but it's when you have it as a principle, as a truth in your life, it will limit your options and limit your possibilities. I just want to give you an example of principles, where principles get in people's way, where that limitation is not necessarily a good thing. I often see it in couples coming to me who are getting divorced, and so often I find that people have a principle that I'm not going to let the other person get away with it. The other person can't do what's wrong. Now, people often see that as a value, and you get stuck when you overlap between those two things. You get to have problems. They don't realize it's no. He can't do something wrong to me. That's what it's about, and you have to be able to tell the difference between those two. But anyway, I want to have my day in court. Now everybody knows that in a divorce, a day in court is a lose, lose, lose. Lose for one spouse, lose for the other spouse, and lose for the children as well. Nobody wins from the day in court. But the principle takes you to court. The principle takes you to, you're stuck. Stuck with a principle, and you have to go there. On a similar vein, I was speaking to somebody recently who had an employee take him to a tribunal, and he felt like he was totally in the right, employee was totally in the wrong. He's absolutely going to win in court. The employee wanted to settle for a very small amount, and he said, no, I'm going to vindicate myself. I have a principle, I've got to be vindicated, and he lost a fortune in the tribunal. That's what happens. I had a similar situation a few years ago, and of an employee taking me to a tribunal, and my father, of blessed memory, who was a wonderfully wise man, said to me, sat me down, he said, look, Shal, he said, I want to make 2 points. Number one, there's never right and wrong in these things. Have you really been the model employer? Look yourself in the mirror and be honest for a moment, and it humbled me, and I really reconsidered. And secondly, he said, you know, this is a David and Goliath case. The David employee and the Goliath employer. And David's often get the sympathy of tribunals, and it really, I didn't do it, and I settled, and it was hard for me, and I had to overcome something within myself to do that, but I'm so glad that I did, because it in retrospect, it makes so much sense to go that way. So I have a principle in life nowadays, and my principle is I have one principle, and I don't have principles. If I can avoid principles, I will avoid them at all costs, because I feel they only limit me, and they only get in my way, and I just get stuck. And I get stuck in something that is not going to be helpful for me. I don't want to be stuck. I want to be open-minded. I want to have possibilities in life, and I don't want to limit myself more than I need to. Of course, my values limit me, and I will absolutely be limited by values, and I want to be limited by my values, but I don't want more than that. I've got enough values, enough limitations already. I don't need to add more. I'm just going to say one final thing, and that is, how do you know the difference between the principle and the value? Sometimes they look very similar. To me, it's about the feeling. Principles, values are very soft, they're very gentle, they're very strong. but it's a soft feeling inside of you that just says this is right and I'm shiftable on that and there's nothing I can do about it. Whereas principles so often come with agitation, with frustration, and with indignation, and with self-righteousness. That's usually the feeling behind principles. It's not a cast iron guarantee that that's true, but I think it's really helpful. And so you can have all the principles you want. My principle is don't have them because they limit you, but just realize if you have principles, realize they're going to be limitations for you.